This is Voice to Culture, a podcast for the modern day confused citizen.
Hey, we're back with another episode. I'm your podcast host, Helen.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Michelle.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Carolyn.
In this episode, we'll be sharing our thoughts on the current political climate regarding the presidential and vice presidential debates and election. Disclaimer, some of the contents covered are based on opinionated ideas and beliefs. Please fact check everything before forming conclusions. So, this year's election is very crucial to America's future and democracy. To start off, let's go over what actually happened during the election debates. So the first presidential debate occurred on September 29th between the two presidential candidates, Biden and Trump. So what did you guys think about like the debate overall? Because it was a very huge mess. Like both of them interrupted each other. Even the moderator was like Trump was like fighting the moderator, and it was like very strange. I was like, why are you fighting the moderator? Like he even said, like during it, he was like, oh, I guess I'm like debating you, not like Biden. And I was like, yo, he's the moderator. Like he wouldn't even let like the moderator ask questions. Like Trump was just basically like interrupting everyone. And I don't know, like Biden said, like it was very unpresidential and it was rude.
Yeah, it was just like extremely unprofessional. Like I feel like for both sides, because like even when the moderator like asked the questions, I felt like they sort of just like dodged the points, and they didn't like completely answer it, and we're just using like logical fallacies and stuff.
Yeah, I had to do a homework assignment for my government class, and we had to watch it and take notes on like the different like topics covered, and like it was so difficult for me to take notes because I felt like 90% of like the debate was not watchable because it was just constant bickering, and there wasn't anything you can get out of it because like you can't really hear anything because like everybody's just talking over each other. It was like the moderator against Biden against Trump, and it was just like it was all just a big mess, and I couldn't like take much notes on it, and yeah.
Yeah, they weren't even like really talking about their policies. They were just like arguing and they're like insulting each other. Like they're like elementary school kids or something.
Overall, I think the presidential debate and even the vice presidential debate, they were more entertaining and like content for memes than actual information, because you notice that a lot of the times when the moderator would ask the candidates some questions, they were like trying to dodge them and like use their time to like talk about another topic completely unrelated to what the moderator was trying to ask. So it was just not a good representation of what a proper debate should be. But the second one was somewhat better.
Yeah, so like in the first debate, it was just mostly like arguing and them insulting each other. Like Biden like calling like Trump a clown and like just like all these terms, and they're just attacking each other. But things that we did learn was about some of like the taxes, like Biden not wanting to. Trump and his supporters, I guess, claimed that Biden wants to raise taxes for everyone and then Biden clarified that he actually only wants to raise taxes on those with an income higher than 400K. And one big point during the debate was also that when asked to condemn white supremacy, Trump actually avoided it. And he instead told Proud Boys, a white supremacy group, to stand back and stand by, which personally I think what that kind of translates to, and it's what, like, I don't know what his intentions were with saying that, but it came off as like saying stand by means to be ready for whatever. So and after that, like the Proud Boys, like there were like screenshots and stuff of them like being happy about it, and they're like, oh yes, like Mr. Trump, Mr. President, yes, we're so whatever, like they support him. And he, with him saying that, it was just him supporting white supremacy. And a lot of people who supported Trump said after, like, oh, like he's condemned white supremacy so many times already. But okay, if that's true, then why is that this one time, like in the presidential debate where literally everyone is watching, that one time where he was asked to, he didn't. So yeah, overall, I didn't like this debate. It wasn't like a debate at all. It was just two people yelling at each other and arguing.
Following the first presidential debate was the vice presidential debate on October 7th. And personally, I thought this one was like a lot better than
the first presidential debate, which I think like all of you would agree with. However, there was like a lot of times where Pence was talking over Harris, but like she was still able to remain calm and like get her point across. And yeah.
This one felt more like an actual debate, even though like yes, like Pence did speak over Harris, but I think like ultimately I think CNN reported that Pence only talked like I think like 30 seconds more than Harris, even though it felt like he spoke over her a lot. But yeah, they both spoke like pretty like much the same. My favorite moment though was when like Pence was trying to speak over Harris, and then she was like, "Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. That was like the best thing. I was like, yes, go. Stop letting men walk over you. Yeah,
Let
really
get that smile on too. She was just like, I'm speaking.
Yes. Her faces were the best.
Oh yeah, everyone I saw people were like, "Oh, that gives me principal vibes."
Yeah, I saw it. Was funny. Her faces the entire time. Great.
Yeah, but she was able to be like really calm and professional and like just yeah, I yeah.
Yeah, I think she had to be like really professional because she couldn't fall into that stereotype of like being the angry black woman, because then otherwise the white suburban woman like wouldn't want to vote for her. So she had to kind of portray that level of professionalism throughout the entire debate.
Which is like something that I think is like really unfair too. Is that back to like the stereotype. I think it's really unfair for Kamala Harris. Like we've already seen how badly she's being treated. Like personally, I don't really like her that much, but I do support her and Biden. And it's really unfair how like all these white men or like people on Trump's side, they're like countless videos of them purposely mispronouncing her name and just like making fun of her just because she's a woman who's black and Indian and you know and what I noticed, like I don't really know if it was like I don't know, maybe I was being biased, but what I noticed is that the moderator was a little more polite to Pence than she was to Harris. Oh my god. With Pence, she was very much like thank you, Mr. Vice President, thank you. Versus like Kamala Harris, she was very like I don't know, she just felt more strict on her and wanted to like stop her from talking. Whereas with Pence, she was like very polite.
I don't think I picked up on that when I was watching, but it could definitely be like an implicit bias against women of color. So
Yeah, and like overall, I think she made like a pretty like big impact in the vice presidential debate because she's like the first Black and South Asian woman to ever like participate in like an election debate. So I'm really glad about that.
Like if Helen thought that there was a bias towards Pence, then there was definitely a bias fly that was so obsessed with Pence's head for the majority of the debate.
That was
So funny.
an
Oh my
interesting
god.
moment. Dude, literally, like I tweeted, I was like, "Oh, see, like even the fly knows Pence is full of shit."
I know, and the fact that like just like I don't know, like just moments after, like Biden made like merch over it too. He made like he started selling like flies, like
Swatters.
swatters. Yeah.
That was so funny. Like,
Biden knew
what
what
is
he was doing.
dude? Whoever his merch team is, dude, like incredible. I was just gonna say, dude, the fly swatters, they sold out so quickly. What did they say again? Truth over flies. It was so funny. I was like, oh my god. Dude, his marketing team, man. Oh my god. Yep. Okay, so the fly was interesting, but I do want to say that I don't know, it was very funny and it made a lot of memes, but it kind of sucked that like that was like kind of the main takeaway from it, like which honestly kind of goes to show how like maybe like the debates aren't really as effective as they should be because that was kind of like the only thing that people talked about when there should have been more like effective like what like their policies and whatever that should have been talked about more than just the fly, but I guess yeah, it just goes to show how much maybe we're not talking
Yeah.
about the right things.
Yeah, I feel like it's really hard to take the debate seriously, you know? Like they're entertaining, they're like joke. They're like a joke. They're like, it's funny to make memes out of them, but it's really hard to like actually like take them seriously.
And then the second presidential debate. The second presidential debate was a lot more serious because this time the mics were actually muted when the 2 minutes were up, and the moderator was more strict on time and ensuring that both sides got the chance to speak. Trump didn't exactly provide a clear healthcare plan to replace Obamacare. He kind of just said that, oh, Obamacare is that, I'm going to replace it. But there's a difference between saying I'm going to replace it versus actually replacing it, right? And that's kind of concerning considering how COVID is seriously impacting our lives right now. And his only measure for success is how well the stock market's doing. Anyways, there was definitely less interruptions because of the muted mics. We got to better understand both sides and how they're going to try to make this country more united and definitely come out of this pandemic and recession. What we did notice was Trump misstated Fauci's past comments on COVID-19. He said that Fauci recommended public to not wear masks when in actuality, he said people should not wear surgical or N95 masks because of the shortage of those masks. So this is important. When people say, well, masks don't work, 99% of people survive COVID. And it's like doctors are telling you to wear a mask and social distance. Like they're not telling you this is like a 100% effective solution. They're telling you that if everyone does this and everyone takes this pandemic seriously, it's going to be a lot more effective and we're going to get out of this quarantine sooner than if we just pretend like the virus doesn't exist, which, as we know, does not work well. Just look at the southern states. No tea, no shade, but wear your mask.
Yeah, they're not respecting like safety precautions like at all, and like there's just a reason why like the other countries have been like successfully like been able to like hold off the coronavirus, like when you guys were talking about when they were talking about like the Chinese virus and stuff, like you could see that like people are starting to like go outside and stuff because like the pandemic is starting to like go down, whereas if you look at like in like America right now, it's still increasing, it's still going up because no one's taking like the precautions seriously. And so yeah.
Yeah, I find like the stuff that Trump says and like how he like misquotes Fauci all the time is like it's so dangerous because like there's like a lot of people like that are watching him and listen to what he says. So like if they like believe like what he says about Fauci or like with other scientists, they're gonna lose trust in those scientists, those same professionals, and like yeah, so when these same people are telling them to take the like certain safety precautions, they're less likely gonna listen, and like that puts their health in jeopardy.
Yeah, and you can't really use like him getting coronavirus as an excuse either, because he's being provided like the top healthcare systems and stuff that like middle class people are not able to afford. So it's not so yeah, you can't really use that as an excuse to just not take the precautions like seriously.
Yeah, him saying that like he's immune now to coronavirus. First of all, that's not a thing. You can't be immune to COVID. Like people have gotten it twice, and him saying that like he learned a lot. Well, clearly he didn't learn a lot because he's still not wearing a mask. He's not enforcing like any social distancing, any like precautions, any guidelines to help people. And like him saying that like we need to protect our elders, our seniors, and yet he's also preaching about how we should open everything up again. Like I don't understand how that's going to help anyone by opening things. Like we just had the highest number of cases of COVID like just now. Like currently like we have the highest amount of like cases that we've ever had during this entire pandemic. So clearly like it's not going down. It's going back up actually, and it's getting worse and worse if we don't actually do something about it. And so his plans, like he doesn't have a plan. He's just like talking about how there is one, but he's never explicitly like stated what his plan is. And he's talked about like how a vaccine is coming out in weeks when nothing has been cleared. Like we're getting to a vaccine, but it's nothing has been like officially like cleared. Like we're still having problems with vaccines. Like many companies, like Johnson and Johnson, just like canceled their entire thing because someone had like and an unexplained disease or whatever, something from it. And like, so yeah, like vaccines aren't ready yet, and yet he's saying that we're gonna get one in weeks. And he's just okay during his entire presidency, like it's all just false hope, like in my opinion. Like and like like the healthcare plans, like he only says he wants to replace Obamacare, has never actually stated an actual plan, and yeah, a mess.
I'm just gonna add on that if Trump does not win re-election this term, he's going to be the first president to leave office with less jobs than he started. And that's saying a lot, right? Because people would always say that, like, well, Trump has done so much for the economy, but look at the economy now, you know? Is it really that great?
Any support that comes for like Trump, like whenever I see like I'm like, okay, so what, like why do you guys still support Trump? Oh, he's done so much for the economy. Oh my god, he's created so many jobs. Well, look at it now. It's actually like it's bad. And him, like his whole like thing about him helping the economy wasn't actually his doing. And like the economy fluctuates all the time, and it wasn't necessarily because of him. And yeah, I don't know, any like support that comes from him, I feel like can be refuted really like easily and quickly.
And additionally, Trump, like during the debate, Trump also dismissed like the accusations about the Russian investigations and claimed that aside from Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done more for the Black community, which is absolutely stupid and full of lies. So, yeah.
That's the funniest thing ever. I can't. Okay, and then the fact that like when Biden called him Lincoln, like obviously as a joke, like he was like, okay, Lincoln, like literally he didn't get the joke and clarified that he wasn't Lincoln. And Trump supporters, after I saw on Twitter, they were all laughing at Biden. They're like, oh my god, like look, Biden's like, cause what they think he has, like, what do they think he has, like freaking Alzheimer's or something. I don't know. They think they're always like Biden like forgets everyone, right? Because he's like old and incapable of being president. And so yeah, I know
Trump is
they're
literally
both
only
too
like
old,
2 years
guys.
or something like younger.
Yeah,
Like, calm down,
guys.
people.
I know, but yeah, they're like, oh my god, like you just called Trump Lincoln, and I was like, dude, you guys are so hello, like no, like he wasn't calling Trump Lincoln, like that was because he said, because Trump literally said that like, oh, no one has done more than besides Lincoln, you know. So he called him Lincoln as a joke, and then they're all like, "Oh my God, Biden just called Trump Lincoln." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, I don't know. That doesn't have to do with anything. And also, him saying that he just has done more than for Black Americans than Lincoln, just yikes. Like, what kind of like, I don't know. You can't take that as a fact. He's done nothing. Like, I don't know what he's done. He said that he's created more jobs for Black Americans, which I don't know if that's necessarily like, again, not his doing.
How's that doing more than Lincoln though?
Yeah. I don't understand. Like also Lincoln, yeah. Wait, what I'm saying might be controversial, but I don't think he didn't release the slaves because he actually wanted to. It was to, what was it again? It was like to appease like the North. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And just that whole comparison between Trump and Lincoln, just no. Like why would you do that? And he's done it multiple times too. He's always talking about how he's like a better president than anyone else besides like Washington or Lincoln. Like oh my god, I don't know.
Speaking of history, you guys think the Electoral College should be abolished? Personally, I think it should be abolished because I don't like the whole idea of like a bipartisan government system. Because clearly, when George Washington like founded this country, he was like, "Guys, don't create parties, don't create factions, because then house divided against itself cannot stand." And look where we are now. We're divided into Republicans, Democrats, parties, and nobody can agree on anything, and we can't work on anything together. And it's so easy to fall into identity politics and voting for a candidate who's aligned with their parties without actually checking what their policies are. And I think that's why the electoral college be abolished, because we can actually better see who we're voting for and who represents the people. Because voting should not be based on land; it should be based on the people. That's the point of a democracy.
Yeah, I get that we're like a democratic
Representative democracy.
yeah, representative democracy, but like the electoral college does not represent the people clearly. The electoral college, like, there's literally no point for them anymore. Like, we can clearly see, like, even with the 2016 election, like, Clinton won by like 3 million votes. I don't know, electoral college, like, it doesn't make sense to me how representatives that each state votes, that the representatives that we do vote for, like, they vote against what the state wants, which doesn't make sense for me. Like, how can, like, I don't know if that ruling ever came through, that like they took it to court. They wanted like the electoral college representatives to have to vote for what their state votes for. I don't know if that ever was passed, but I think that they should vote. Like, if we do still have an electoral college, first of all, I think it should be abolished. But if we still do have it, then the representatives in electoral college should vote for what their state votes for, because clearly they're not representing like the people correctly if the electoral college is voting against the popular vote. Like, this is not a democracy if electoral college goes against like the popular vote.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Helen and Kelly. I feel like the electoral college doesn't really treat like all Americans equally. We're really depending on like a small group of people to decide on like like the future of the country in a way. I feel like we it's not really more of like the support of American people as like a whole. It's really just like that small group of people that are just deciding for us.
So with following the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Republicans are planning to replace her with Amy Coney Barrett. And some things that you guys should take into consideration is that she has failed to separate the church and state. She served less than 3 years on the Seventh Circuit after working as a law professor at Notre Dame Law School for nearly 2 decades. She also does not remember the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment. And another thing is that women's rights are possibly at risk because Roe v. Wade might be overruled, which made abortions legal. Do you guys have any thoughts on Amy Coney Barrett?
Wait, what's this movie? Oh my god, part of a cult?
Yep.
Wait, really?
You guys didn't hear about it? Oh my god, she's like, it's like a Handmaid's Tale basically thing.
I only heard that like she has adopted children and like some of them are black, but like that's about
Yeah.
it.
People love to use that defense. She adopted like 2 children from Haiti. That doesn't, just because she adopted like 2 black children doesn't mean she's like gonna fight for, people. Like, whenever people like say things like are against her, people love to bring up the fact that she's adopted 2 children from Haiti, as if that makes up for like her views against Roe v. Wade and her, I don't know, just her, like, because I personally think she shouldn't be the replacement for RBG, and I don't think she has enough like qualifications, even though technically there's no specific qualification stated for the Supreme Court justice. Uh, just like compared to everyone else, she doesn't have enough experience. But yeah, like her children, her adopted children, that doesn't make up for who she is as a person. Like, good for her for adopting children. That doesn't do anything though.
Yeah, and currently it's a bit worrying because like there's already more Republicans than Democrats in like the Supreme Court. So like if she becomes like a Supreme Court justice, then it's gonna like override the balance even more. Like
I don't understand how you can be a woman and be anti-abortion, like anti your own rights, anti-Planned Parenthood, and because she's so like strict to following the Constitution, but nowhere in the Constitution does it say like women can be like in positions of power. Like historically, it was only for men, and the fact that she's like, oh yeah, like let's follow the traditional way and do what's right for America the way the founding fathers wanted it. It's like so outdated and completely contradictory to her own existence as a potential Supreme Court nominee.
That's literally exactly my point. Like, it's like the main point. Like, I don't understand. Like, girl, like, you wouldn't be where you are right now if you really like she says that she's an originalist. Like, no, or the Constitution, like, again, like, nowhere does it say, like, the Constitution literally only supports white land owning men. Yeah, like, she's literally against herself, and that doesn't make any sense. Like, being pro life is just being pro controlling women. You don't actually care about, like, you're pro birth, man. Like, you just want to control women. Like, you don't actually care about life. Clearly not, because like, when it comes to like the foster care system, you don't give a flying fuck. Like, sorry, but like, it doesn't, like, you only care about the birth part of it, or not even the birth part of it, like, just like the controlling women part of it, because you don't want them to have a choice.
And like I feel like it really puts like women at risk as well, because even if you make abortion illegal, they're like abortion is still gonna be there. You know, women are still gonna like seek abortions, but like the methods are gonna become like really unsafe and like dangerous. So it's just I feel like in a way it's just like I feel like America's just moving backwards at this point.
I don't understand people who are like pro-life and they try to force other people to be pro-life. You can be pro-life and like, you know, like decide not to have abortions, but why do you have to like force other people to give birth?
Yeah, because like abortion is like prevent, like, it's like the mother's like life could be in danger, and and they'd be like, oh, I don't care. So literally, like, that, you're not being pro-life. Like, I don't know, the mother's life could be in danger, or like it could have been due to rape, or it could have been just, or they could just have an abortion just because they're not ready for it. And if they're not ready for it, how can they take care of a baby, like another life? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
And then, like overall, I feel like it doesn't even have like an impact. With like it doesn't even have an impact to you. So why do you care so much about it too? You know, like I don't know. I just feel like it's their own choice. It's their body. Why are you trying to control that aspect? You know?
Yeah, like, why, especially with like so many men in power, like, why does it that men have a say over what women have to do? And even like women themselves, like Amy Coney Barrett, like, herself is a woman, and she's trying to control women. So like, make it make sense, love. But yeah, speaking of birth, like, the religious group that she's like part of, it's called People of Praise. I think she like was a part of it or something. I don't know. But she was like, I don't know if any this is, I forget if this is like actually factual or not, but I don't know. Okay, wait, if there's enough like sources, I'm reading off of like the Washington Post, and there's like a lot of like really good sources, so I think it's like accurate. But yeah, so she was like a part of a, like, what is it? It's like a Christian group, I think, that it's called People of Praise, and basically she served as a handmaid, which, like, if anyone is familiar with like the Handmaid's Tale, like, yikes. So basically, like, they believe that like women, like, their only purpose is to give birth, and that men dominate everything. So just like the fact that she was a part of that, like, you should already know like enough about her character. Like, she believes in the patriarchy, or that group, like, the patriarchy is like, men dominate everything, and yeah. Let's talk about Texas. Texas, I think, has become like pretty close to turning blue. But when they voted for their governor, I think like 2 years ago or something like that, their Democratic candidate was really, really close to winning. But like, ultimately, like, the Republican candidate won. But yeah, like, over like the past like few years, Texas has been like gone pretty close to turning blue, but has failed to. I think this year, like, again, once again, it's really close to turning blue. I think Biden is currently leading in Texas by like, barely 1%. I really hope Texas does turn blue, because Texas does have like it's a pretty big state. Like, it does have like a pretty important impact over the election, and also like all the other states, swing states too. I think Florida is also like teeter-tottering in between the two. I think Biden either was or is leading in polls, but I don't. That still like surprised me, that though, that like Biden is leading in polls. just because like Florida is literally like Trump's state, but it'd be really interesting to see if Florida does turn blue. Oh wait, Texas. Oh yeah, the fact that I saw on Twitter, and I forget if this is actually true or not, but um, Texas only has like 2 drop-off ballot or boxes for ballots. If that's true, I think it was true. There's only 2 like places where you can drop off your ballots. That is really really messed up because here in California, at least, like I feel like there's so many everywhere. Like at like at a school, at a library, whatever. Like every like single like street it looks like has a place where you can drop off your ballots. But in Texas, the fact that there's only 2, that's like really messed up. Like voter suppression is really bad. In the United States, first of all, it's already really bad. But second of all, like this year, it's like the worst that's been, I feel like.
Yeah, by having like only like a limited amount of like drop-off boxes, like you're gonna discourage a lot of people from like voting, and like that just, yeah, voter suppression.
You also have to keep in mind the number of fake drop-off ballot boxes, or at least like unofficial ones that have been in California, because a lot of Republican people have been putting them out, and that's kind of illegal because you can only put official ones out there. But yeah, it's really important that you make voter drop-off boxes accessible to all communities, not just predominantly white ones, but also available for people who are working, because a lot of the younger people, because they have school and because they have work, they can't spend their entire day lining up for hours just to vote on election day like some of the older generation can do, which is why like the voter turnout by age is so much higher for senior citizens versus the younger people.
Which is quite unrepresentative because like for younger people, it's like our future. And like, yeah, it's like the fact that like old people, just like the people in power, like the old white people, like you aren't representative, but okay. And yeah, like voter suppression in the United States in general, yeah, like the fact that like in other countries, like ballots are easier to understand, yet here it's very confusing, especially with like propositions, like voting yes or no on them. You have to like clearly read. I think my dad told me that like a few years ago. I think it was about like gay marriage, and it was like if you vote yes, you're against it, and if you vote no, you're for it. And so yeah, you have to like really like read the propositions like carefully, and it's just like harder to understand here and than in other countries. And other countries like election day is an official holiday versus here it's not. So again, like people have hard time like taking off of work or off of school just to vote, just to wait. And okay, and the whole waiting for hours, people waited. I saw someone on Twitter who waited for like more than 11 hours just to vote. Like that seems just very wrong to me. And the fact that it's also celebrated, like I waited 5 hours in line today, like that's not something that should be celebrated. Like yes, that's like, wonderful that she voted, but also terrible that you have to wait that long just to vote. Like, which is why like voting is so, I guess, like not encouraged, but like people just don't want to vote. And if they don't see that it's worth it to vote, especially because again, as we saw in the 2016 election, the electoral college like was just against the popular vote. If people don't see that it's worth it to vote anyway, like if you have to wait hours just to vote and you think that your vote doesn't count anyway, which by the way it does, please vote if you can. People aren't gonna want to vote. So yeah.
We're really lucky in California to have early voting, where you can not only have your ballot mailed in because of the COVID pandemic, but also voting early and dropping off your ballot at drop-off centers which are close by to you.
Regarding like fake drop-off boxes, you guys can check like online. Okay, wait, yeah, like you can check online to see like where the official ballot drop-off boxes are, just to make sure that you don't drop it off at a fake one. So yeah.
As an American citizen, it's only right for you to vote early and stay engaged. It's very important to practice your voice because if everyone doesn't practice their voice, then no one would be equally represented. So like drop off your ballot because it might be too late to mail at this point since we only have 8 days left. But Like, you can still register on California Secretary of State website and vote on a provisional ballot. Once again, we only have 8 days left to vote for the presidential election. So, just once again, vote. Like, put it on a beat, vote. Capital V, vote.
Yeah, you can still register to vote, but like if you're voting, that's like if you only or in California, like the deadline was October 19th, but that's if you vote, I think mail in. But if you vote like at a polling, what is it called, like polling place, whatever, you can still register there. And just to be aware of like any dress codes because they're weird dress codes sometimes, I think. And also, yeah, this election is just really important because, again, like it's not just for the president. Like it's not just between Trump and Biden. There's many like House seats, many like Senate seats that are up for vote, and just like as every election, there's lots of propositions and like a lot of things that you can vote for. All right, that wraps up our discussion on the current political climate regarding the presidential and vice presidential debates and elections. Again, some of our commentary is opinionated and based on personal beliefs, but please note that our best interest is to start a conversation and to spread information.
I'll make sure to link all of our sources that we cited in the description below. If you're interested in what we do and want to better understand what we're about, please check out all our socials. All ads are at Voice to Culture.
If you like this episode, please give us a review or like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified every time we upload a video.
Thank you so much for listening.
We'll be back soon with another episode. Please stay safe and healthy, everyone. Bye.
Bye.